So welcome to everybody. Again, another week in sort of slightly eased version of this sort of staying at home for many of us, particularly in our community where a lot of us anyway are more freelance or more able to work from home. And we've been running, this is now our 7th meeting. And the purpose of our meetings was just to really cheer each other along, you know, as an NLP community, cheer each other along and share tools and ideas for helping us through how we can hold difficult feelings, how we can live with this kind of uncertainty, how we can stay creative and flexible, how we can maintain our self-regulation in mind and body, and how we can kind of come through this in a resourceful way, both individually and as a community, and start to look to the future and how we can contribute to you know, and hold that expectation and build some kind of towards a positive future and a positive outcome. So welcome to everybody. And again, I want to say, I know that people who come on these meetings are in very different kind of places. I am very, you know, privileged and grateful so far. You know, I have a roof over my head, I have food, I have, you know, my family are all okay, including my nearly 96-year-old aunt in a home. And they all celebrated VE Day together on Friday. So that was amazing. But I know that some people are already, you know, ill or recovering or bereaved or grieving or worrying about money or worrying about work, worrying about the future. So I know that we're in very different kinds of places. And I just hope that what I offer to the group as a whole, everybody can take some part of it and be able to use it wherever you're coming from at this point. So today I wanted to, our topic is values and outcomes. And I think it's really important at these points, especially important right now, to have a sense of kind of living from our values more and more every day, and being able to set, you know, feasible, realistic goals around our own thriving and the thriving of our communities and the thriving of our ideas and ways that we can move forward with all of these things. Setting goals has a magic of its own, as I know that you know, but to actually bring your frame of attention towards something in and of itself starts to mobilize your kind of resources and your attention and your energy in many, many different kinds of ways. And it acts as a filter, a filtering kind of framework to work out what might be possible and useful, and to help to organize and manage our own creative impulses and abilities. So, and of course our goals are our more tangible expressions of our values. And a value is a kind of, it's like a kind of feeling of what's desirable and meaningful. It's like a kind of energy that is motivational. That's about what you think is desirable in the world and has meaning for you. And so what we do is we work from values, and then they get expressed into goals, and then obviously then that gets expressed into actions in the world. So our goals come from our felt sense of meaning and motivation that translates into actions then into the world. And I think that that becomes especially important, as I say, in times like this, where there's a lot, we're more liable to fall into kind of problem thinking, what we don't want and what we want to avoid, and on kind of problems. And we know that shows up especially in our meta programs, where we may be more, in any case, more adjusted to working towards goals, or more adjusted towards working towards problems. It's like that can be motivational for some of us, but it's important to be able to put what we don't want in relationship, you know, to what we do want, to serve as informational resource to help us guide and frame and really refine what it is that we want, which is going to lead our energy and attention and resources and kind of mobilize us towards something that is desirable and meaningful for us to achieve in our life and in the world. So values are important, and they cluster around different kinds of things for us. They cluster around, obviously, things like our health and our well-being. They cluster around things like family and friendships and the idea of relationship being important to us. They cluster around work and, you know, being professional and achieving and doing something meaningful with our work and our lives. Clusters around things like security and stability, maintaining, financially and kind of emotionally, maintaining a kind of sense of safety and security and stability. The values orientate around certain states, to be happy or to be satisfied or to, have a sense of joy or something like that. And of course, at the top of the kind of Maslow hierarchy are things like personal evolution, or you might call it, personal development, or sense of growth and change and expansion through your life for you and your creativity and your generativity and your contribution. So all of these things are kind of like words. You may have your own words for what really is important to you. And I think it's kind of literally, sometimes people say, what do you get out of bed in the morning for? What is that? And even if you answer that question literally, like say, well, my breakfast, the kind of breakfast that you have is going to surface out what matters to you. It is good nutrition meaningful to you? Is kind of balanced diet meaningful to you? Blah, blah, blah. Are you going to get out of bed to phone a friend? Are you going to go to work? Are you going to put food on the table for your family? Are you going to read a book that you really want to see? Are you going to kind of sort of start dreaming up some project or contributing to something? All of these are values, and an interesting way actually to reverse engineer when people go, what are really my values, is to look at how do you spend your time? How are you actually spending your time on what? And you can like track your way back to like the value label that represents like why you do that, because that's what we want to do. We want to achieve our values. That gives us a sense of satisfaction and well-being and achievement and kind of joy in life. And if we don't have our values, or something comes up that seems to be the opposite of our values, we can feel very disappointed, even violated by a kind of values aggression. So values are really important. And really, what matters, what are the values that are mattering to you right now? I think that would be like a good thing just to start surfacing. What's really important to you right now? And then start to think what sorts of goals would be expressions of those values for you in your life, even day to day right now. Whatever you're doing, whether you're on the move back to work, or whether you're still sheltering in place, whether you're recovering from something, whether you're trying to build towards something in your work and your well-being. So that's the first thing. It's like, what are the values? What are your values that you want to work with, and what starts to be goals that organize and structure that. So in NLP, there are at least 4 different 4 approaches to goals, and I want to do something, albeit in this 25-minute little tiny window where I'm running along 1,000,000 miles an hour for you. But I know for a lot of you, these are just reminders. It is work that you've done, and these are reminders of study that you've done and work that you do with yourself and others. So these 4 models are basically the idea of well-formed outcomes. So that's a goal setting model, well-formed outcomes, and I'll come back to that. Then there's the TOTE model, and I'll come back to that, the SCORE model, and then there's the generative coaching version of setting intention and setting direction. And I'm going to scoodle along through all of them and hopefully give you a little bit of time to work with the last one, because yeah, I think you'll enjoy it, and that for many of you might be a new way to think about goal setting. So goal setting is like it's like a kind of fundamental organizing principles. And in PPD, as you know, we've got this little model for well-formed outcomes. So a well-formed outcome is like a well-formed sentence. You know, it comes from the fact that John Grinder was a professional linguist, you know, academic linguist. And so the idea is that there's a kind of syntax. There's an underlying structure of successful sentences. And there is, you know, that's the metaphor that's been mapped across into the idea of goal setting, that there's some kind of underlying syntax. And so you have that same idea, well-formedness sentence, well-formed kind of goal. And so in PPD, we have this little kind of, you know, pacer. So you will know this, but the first principle, these are like these 5 key principles of goal setting to make them well-formed, so that they're feasible, doable, congruent, you know, they align with your values, they fit with who you are, they're contextualized, all of those kinds of things. So I just remind you of those, because this most important thing to know what you want rather than what you don't want. And I really like that analogy with the, you know, going in a London taxi and going, and the driver goes, you know, where do you want to go to? And you go, well, I don't want to go to Buckingham Palace, and I don't want to go to, you know, Madame Tussauds or whatever. I don't want to go to Heathrow. And the driver's just going, come on, where do you want to go? And as we know now on sat navs, you know, the moment you put in your destination, it knows where you are and it starts to generate routes. And so that's a bit like this kind of magic of going, well, what is it you want? State it in the positive. This is where I want to go. Because as soon as you do that, the rest of the system starts to spring to life and starts to reorganize the kind of, you know, the quantum data field into potential routes and avenues of how you might get somewhere. The second thing is, so it's PACER, PA, so that's stated in the positive. The A is for achievement. And what that means is, you know, putting things into the real world. What will you actually see? Finding an evidence space for a goal. What will be different? What will you see? What will you actually hear? What will you actually feel? What might somebody else see, hear, and feel? So in other words, as you step into what you want and fully imagine it, you're bringing sensory-based evidence into to bear, you know, so that it starts to imaginatively kind of take shape. But also, this is one of the very brilliant things that human beings are able to do, which is that we are able to step forwards in time and imaginatively put ourselves into a wholly new type of reality. So this, as if, you know, I'm going to step in as if this is already true and test it out experientially in my whole mind-body system, so that I start to sense, is this what I want? You know, what will it actually be like? Is it going to be feasible? Is it going to be kind of doable? Is it going to be what I really, really, you know, what I really, really want? So that's the A. And then the C is about contextualizing a goal. So like bringing in the time-space coordinates and the whole kind of context of it. When do you want it? When don't you want it? The E is this idea of ecology and congruence. And one of the questions is, does this fit with you? Does this goal actually fit with you? Does it resonate with your values? Is it sort of you? Or is it someone else's goal? Or is it like not quite really congruent with who you are and your values? And then the other thing, of course, is because every goal that you achieve and work towards, I would say it's like sort of dropping a pebble in a pond. You know, there's going to be these ripples going out. And so a change anywhere in a system, in a living system, has knock-on changes around the system. And so the whole ecology question invites you to appreciate that and make sure you're not going to then get knock-on things that you don't want, and you're not going to lose anything that actually you want to maintain and preserve. So it's a whole kind of systems look at the effect that this goal will have. And as you know, as a species, we're spectacularly bad at doing this, you know, because we kind of go, I'm going to get my goal, but then it's just a short-term thing. We hadn't realized that it was going to have these knock-on effects. So this invitation to do a bit of systems, you know, inquiry, is there anything I might lose from how things are in the present that I want to maintain? Is there anything that I will get that, you know, like what will I get? And is that all good? You know, I think it's a really good question. And then the R in PACER is about resources. So as you go through this process, often in a kind of quite an iterative, non-linear way, it will trigger, it starts to trigger and activate resources and help you to identify what you might need. But it also gives you, I think the R is also for like responsibility. It also gives you that feeling of agency. A well-formed outcome is something you make happen from you. It's okay to have goals where things happen and magically things change and you want other people to be different and all of those kinds of things. But a well-formed outcome means that it has to start with you and the goal is wholly owned by you. So that's just a kind of reminder of the PACER. And then of course you can put in timelines and steps along the way, and you can start to generate actions and all of those kinds of things. But that idea of stating something in the positive, what you actually want, stepping in imaginatively, connecting it to sensory evidence, making sure it's fully and appropriately contextualized, that you've checked the systemic effects of change for you, and that you feel the inner agency and locus of control is inside you, and the whole project is being generated by you. Those are the conditions and the principles for the well-formedness. Oh, I'm leaving myself not enough time. However, so I hope that's a helpful reminder for those of you that have done, especially practitioner, and are working with this model all the time. It's a kind of model that I have in the background, like all of these, sort of all the time, of going, when someone says what they want, what am I calibrating to? What might I need to ask them about? Just to make sure that all these principles are upheld and that they're helping to form, you know, a truly sane, doable, you know, value-led kind of goal for somebody. So the second model is what in NLP is called the tote model, which is this, so this comes from guided missiles, you know, the idea of kind of like tracking a goal. You might be off course the whole time. So like an aircraft is apparently 98% of the time, you know, off course. So the idea of aircraft flight is about ongoing error correction rather than anything else, with a destination in mind. And I think that's quite a nice way of thinking about it, that you have a destination in mind, you know where you want to land, and then you're going to act and get feedback in relation to where you should be by now along the way. So it's got that nice kind of feedback driven, you're constantly testing. Are we, as Bart Simpson says in the back of the car, are we there yet? Are we there yet? You know, so the tote is like a test, where am I where I want to be? And then the O is operations, steps and processes and things I might do that will take me to my goal. And then I'm going to test along the way. Am I there yet? Did I make it? Have I done it? And when I've done it, then I can exit from that particular tote. I've achieved it. But again, a very, very interesting way of thinking about goals, especially in living systems. Like it's the perfect thing for, you know, presentations, interviews, communication, all of those kinds of things. What's actually my goal here? So let me try this, let me try that. It gives you that permission to be flexible, but stay, you know, stay with your eyes on the prize, as they say. Stay with your eyes on the prize. The third one I just wanted to mention really was the marvelous, marvelous SCORE model, which again covers this space of setting outcomes in relation to values in a slightly different way, in that the SCORE model takes the past problem state and maps that out more fully than the other models do. And so it takes SCORE stands for, really the model is, and I need to do it this way for you, obviously, you know, cause, symptom, resource, outcome, effect. And a cause and symptom is like the present state, problem state. Outcome, effect is like the future state that you want, the outcome state. And so, and then the resources are what you need to change one into the other, to change where you are now with your sort of symptoms and the cause of those symptoms, that it can be transformative into what you want, which is the outcome, the O in SCORE, and the effects, which is like the, what do you get through getting that? It's a really, truly wonderful model. There's so many things you can do with it. You can do it with logical levels. You can do it with, in all the spaces. You can do it. I have, you know, danced the SCORE. Judy Delozier and Robert Dilts, I think it was Judy actually, but at NLPU, there's kind of dancing the SCORE, like using it purely somatically, coming into that cause space and dancing into the symptom and dancing into the outcome and the effects. It's a kind of really wonderful thing where your, as they say, your body knows the score, you know, your body knows the score. So it's, again, a really terrific model. And I know that's somebody who I won't name, but, you know, used to do his sales meetings with like Post-it notes with things from the SCORE on it. So in a conversation, just write down like, oh, what's the cause? Because people move around. What's the cause? What's the outcome? You know, what's the symptom in the present state? Oh, what's the effects that they really, really want? Starting to kind of build intuitions as you map out this data and organize it in this very, very thorough kind of way. So you start to have intuitions about what the resources are. It's like a kind of piece of magic, really. It's a wonderful, wonderful model. And so then the last, sorry, I know we're cantering along, but I know for a lot of people, this is kind of like reminders of things, reminders for you to go like, well, what do I want today and over the next few weeks? What are my goals? You know, how do I want to organize my thinking and move towards them so they're really congruent with me? And the last one I wanted to do was the one from the generative coaching model. And this starts with both people in the coach state. So I will calm my energy down as you hear my voice drop. And so this is this state we've been talking about, centered. So you drop your weight down, you're open to experience and you're open to your coaching partner. You're paying attention with awareness. You've got this soft peripheral kind of vision as well as this more focused one. You're able to hold whatever comes up and be hospitable to whatever comes up, and you're connecting. You're connecting to your partner, you're connecting to yourself and your unconscious, conscious and unconscious, however you want to talk about that. And between you, it becomes a coaching container, what in generative coaching is called a coaching container, that the relationship itself provides a kind of a generative creative field and holding structure for new ideas, new solutions, new possible worlds to spontaneously and naturally emerge. And so the process is this, that you start in this state, and if you want to, everyone can be in this state just for a little while with me. So just drop your attention down to your belly a bit more. Take a breath and breathe it out. And the question in generative coaching is, what is it you most want to create in your life? What is it you most want to create in your life? And the answer as it comes, so this is a process, we won't have time for the whole process, is that you answer it in 5 words or less. 5 words or less. What is it? So you're in the coach state, you settle down, you settle in. What is it you most want to create in your life? 5 words or less in this quiet, centered coaching state in relationship with self and hopefully others. So it's a very interesting thing in and of itself, just to go, it's 5 words or less. And then the next, so there's a lot in the process with your partner. There's quite a lot of mirroring, obviously deeply rapportful, mirroring, sponsoring, backtracking. So what you most want to is, I repeat your 5 words or less, you know. And so we'd go back and forth, making sure they're the kind of right types of words and they're fully felt at every level. And then the next thing, so the next question is, and what is a gesture or a movement for that goal? What is a gesture or a movement that sort of expresses and represents? In other words, we're now putting it in the body, 5 words or less. Now from the body, what does the body, how does the body want to really express what that goal is for you? So that's the second part. And then the third part, again, lots of back and forth. This isn't a questionnaire. This is a relational exercise. So maybe you can take it then offline and do it with somebody, hopefully. So, and then the last bit, and what is a symbol or an image that represents for you this, you know, this goal that you most want to create in your life? And so you have this state, you have the coaching container, you have the 5 words or less, your rapport with yourself and others, you have the body saying through movement how it expresses the goal, and you have like some kind of symbol or visual representation that also expresses the goal. So you've put it in all 3 key major systems in your being. So I hope you managed to kind of have a go doing that. So that was my intention, to remind you about living from our values, how important it is, you know, every day to feel that the way that we've spent our day has been kind of congruent and we are expressing and living our values, and to have a sense that we can, even in these difficult times, we can set sort of realistic, meaningful, heart-centered, spirit-centered, values-centered, you know, systems, organized kind of goals for ourselves, and work towards them through actions, through behaviors, through our words, etc. So I hope you found that useful. I want to say that next time, so I'm just going to go slightly a few seconds over. Next time, so next week, I want to say, actually, the Generative Change Conference is on, and it is an online conference now. Those of you who are part of the Generative Change community will know that, and you can get in touch with them and see if you want to find a place for that. Our CommuniZoom is on communication and relationships, so should be good. We've also running a special day on 7 essential tools for resilience, and we've got another training coming up on language and using language, you know, influentially and with healing and all of the creatively for difficult times. So lovely to see you all.